Diving right in. You ready, Mo?
I'm always ready. Let's go.
You were so concerned about having your beautiful face recorded so that your dad can listen, right? And watch. That's what you want?
Yeah, you just gotta, being here in Dubai, he doesn't see me every day, so
That's
this
true. That's true.
podcast is how he updates. I started the gym every day, every morning, so I have to check in. So now he sees the results. I've trimmed down a bit. Looking
Oh,
good.
that's so sweet. You've always been super close with your dad, eh?
Yeah, contrary to what people think, just because he's been a tough father
Tough.
figure.
Right, right. That's true because he was like your professor and stuff. Like, what was that whole story? I feel like everyone kind of knows it, but tell
Oh
us.
yeah, well, basically, my father's a teacher at the university, Concordia.
Hmm.
James B in managerial accounting. I think it's Com 305 or 308. Keep on forgetting. He wrote the book. He's very proud about that. He doesn't stop talking about that. And it's basically how I failed his class three times. And like till today, like 20 years later, people's like, "You're the son." I'm like, "Son of what?" It's like, "You're the son that the professor failed." And I'm still
Oh,
actually in that Facebook group. Like on Facebook they have like for James B.
no way.
And even just this semester, like people's like, "Oh my god, I passed! Oh my god, this look at this bell curve. It's crazy." But what's crazy because how tough he is. It's what's given like the school such like high, uh, like I guess evaluation. Like it's a high, it's
Hmm.
very strong
Hmm.
business school. So so yeah, it
And
was
he's
it
held
was it
you.
was.
Yeah, he's held
Mhm.
you to a certain standard too, which I'm sure has like somewhat contributed to like all of your successes and your entrepreneurship and all of the things that you've done over the years because like you've been around the block.
We went around the block. We did a couple of U-turns, come
Yeah.
back, little waves to the neighbors. Hey, how are you? I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know,
So, I mean, for people who don't know, Mo and I met like God, I don't even know how many years ago. It has to be over 10 years ago now,
no
for
more, way
sure.
more. Come on,
No,
way
it
more.
has I think I was like 17 years old.
I don't want
So
to say that here,
a
but
little
yeah.
over a little over 17 turning 18, like a little over 10 years ago. Let's just say that, like 12 years, whatever. And I was a hostess at Coco, which is like the supper club in downtown Montreal. And you were like coming in as the new promoter or whatever. And I remember the attitude. I don't know if it was from me or from you, but do you like remember the first time we met? Like what that
Of
interaction
course, I
was?
remember. I'll
What
never
was
forget
it?
it.
What
I'm
was
like,
it?
I see her walking, and I'm like, "You're giving me attitude." It's like, who? I'm like, number one, you're super organized. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, this girl is super organized. And I see that, and like, I'm an introvert, contrary to people believe. So I'm seeing like this lady's like, oh yeah, she's the hostess and everything to let in my guests, and I'm like, how is she gonna host my guests when she can't even host me, and I'm bringing all the guests? And then obviously I know your sister. I'm like, why is your sister not being cool with me? And then
Well,
yeah, go
what
ahead.
was funny what was funny is that like I had no idea who you were, like no idea. Okay, I'm this like young naive girl coming into like the nightlife industry or whatever, and my sister who was older had already been working, so she knew who you were. And back then you were running Big Moe Productions, which was like a promotion company, right, where you were bringing people into these nightclubs, selling tables, et cetera, et cetera. And like this restaurant was like the top place, like supper club, people would come for dinner, stay. It was massive, sick patio. When I was there, it was like prime time. And it was my first hostessing job, but let me tell you, I fucking killed it and I did great. But when you showed up, you're like, yeah, I have a table of 10. And we're like, no, like, we don't have a reservation for you. I'm sorry. So I spoke to you kind of like as if you were like someone just trying to get in because that was a regular thing where people were just trying to get a table without a reservation. I'm like, listen, like, we can't make up tables. We just don't have tables. I'm so sorry. And you're like, what the fuck is this shit? It was like your first night, I think, even coming to Coco. And then, I mean,
Yes.
we quickly became friends after that. And, it was just like a fun, amicable relationship. And I feel like we've kind of wound in and out and crossed paths over the years, like obviously not in that industry anymore, but you used to hook me and my friends up with like some booths and this and that. Remember Moomba Laval? That's actually where I met my husband, at your booth in Moomba Laval.
Yeah, no, the events was crazy. I remember actually that night at Coco like it was yesterday. It's crazy. I don't know why that I have a
Mm-hmm.
vivid uh like my memories was crystal. I even remember you were at the front of the window. I remember exactly where you're walking, and when I was texting your sister, and it's crazy because that time was, I think, that was near the finale where I'm ending the whole nightlife thing, and it's like all crazy celebrities came to that place, man.
Yeah.
Like I remember
I
even
met
Mark
Channing
Cuban
Tatum
came.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
oh
I was there.
sick.
I was with you.
Oh my
Like,
God, I was such a like weird stalker when Channing Tatum, and I was about to leave, like, because my shift was over, and I stayed a little later that night because it was a friend's birthday, and he showed up, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm still working. I go to him, hi, I'm Alyssa. Like, if you need anything, let me know. He's like, you can call me Chan. I'm like literally almost melted, but yeah, so sick how many celebrities came through that door.
I wish I got some of that hostess on day one, but I guess I didn't get it. I'm not Channing Tatum walking in.
You weren't Channing Tatum. I'm
No, it
very
wasn't.
sorry.
Okay,
Anyways,
those are some good
I
times.
hope you felt the love as we continued to work together, because I think the love was
Nah, it was
mutual.
beyond the love. It was no, it's crazy because it was like that, and then after we just clicked, like we just understood each other, and then it was just like you're saying, like from the West Island, like where are we going? You remember McDonald's and like Mo, where's the ketchup? And like I'm like, come on, man, go back. And then I
Oh
don't know,
my
we had
god.
so many
So
crazy
many
stories
stupid
growing
little
up.
inside jokes and stories. Yeah, so fun. So, okay, for anyone who like doesn't know your story, right now you're on like this whole other path. You're living in Dubai, you're selling luxury watches, like specifically Rolex, I believe, only? Am I right?
No, so everything. So Rolex, Patek,
Okay.
Richard Mille, AP, any 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 brand of watch, basically in the luxury watches.
So
It's just
you're
mostly a Rolex. I started the branding as Rolex,
right.
but
Got it.
um, according with my team, we should, we removed that. So
Branch
just
off. Yeah.
no, I started Rolex because it's the entry. It's what to get people's attention. It's the one that the brand that people know the most. The brand
Mhm.
that people wear the most. They know the most. They produce the most watches. So that's why I went into like start to brand like that with the Rolex. But now, out here, obviously, you have to accommodate like all the other brands. And it's funny because I'm constantly trying to educate myself with all these watches. It's crazy world. But
Right. So cuz you're living in Dubai now, right? And you were in Montreal. You were visiting Dubai and like living there for a brief moment, then came back. Like, what ultimately brought you there and led you there to stay?
so that's a good question. So basically, like I started off obviously like during COVID. I had my startup, which was Venue Genie, which was an Airbnb for event spaces. And then once I lost that during COVID, I had to pivot, which I ended up going into real estate, taking my real estate exam. Then I ended up just falling into watches. It's another story. Um, but I was just building Montreal, which was going very, very well, amazing. Built a team, and when I came here, I actually decided it was weird. It's like faith, like I remember we had a team meeting and we ended up all of us going to Beatrice, and we had
Mhm.
supper there, and it was a typical Montreal night in ice storm, snow and everything.
Classic.
And then I went home that night and I'm like, I was about to turn 40. I know I don't look 40, but I'm about to turn 40 and I'm like, yo, I can't have my 40th birthday here. So I have all my friends, obviously, like I used to live here 5 years ago. So I'm like, I have all my friends there. Let me celebrate my 40th there. So I just, I called my good friend Sudesh and I'm like, hook me up with some tickets. I'm going to Dubai. So I came here for my 40th. And then, I think it's just good, like it wasn't planned. That's the weird thing. So it's like I came
Mhm.
here, I booked. I'm like, I need a month. I always do that when I come to Dubai. I take 1 month, 2 months, and the first time you and your sister also came, like last time, which was like, yo Mo, how are you still there? It was just like I go to visit my friend, and then it's like, oh, there's an opportunity. It's always like
Right.
opportunities here that don't end. So my friend's like, hey, now that because of COVID, now you could open your own company. There's more opportunities. More you could stay. I'm like, guys, I'm not gonna stay. Have my company back home. He's like, well, you could expand. So I
Mhm.
spoke with my team in Canada. I'm like, what? I could be here, still run my team in Canada. Like we have an office in Montreal and Toronto. And then I'm like, what? Let me just like I love evolving. I like to bring the
So
best version of
you
myself
started
out.
the business in Montreal and then expanded to Dubai once you decided to move there, right? So you had already begun the the is it called
Yeah,
broking
so the brokerage. Yeah, so well,
brokerage
it's like a dealer slash broker.
dealer.
Like
Okay,
everyone
okay,
has.
okay.
Well, it's like I don't even know what's the real like. People call it dealers, brokers. It's like you are a
Same,
dealer. It's
same.
basically
Yeah.
it's basically the secondary luxury watch market. So you don't get it from the stores. You get it from a dealer or a trusted dealer that you would
And
just
so
basically.
what's the benefit of doing that? Like, I don't know too much about that. I mean, my husband does, he's kind of into it. But tell me, and I'm sure other people who are kind of confused, it's like, why would someone come to you over just going to the store?
Because if you go into the store, there's nothing. You just see empty shelves.
Why?
So because of after what happened in COVID, so basically a lot of obviously there's a lot of people made a lot of money. So um, like after COVID, basically the so in everything happened. This happened in all the industries. So with cars, with watches, and everything. So all production stopped. So then obviously whatever you had left in the stores, you're able to go grab. And then this then created a whole rise in pricing of watches. So same thing what happened in cars,
Mm,
same thing what happens in homes. The only thing is that watches actually holds its value or even go up. So a lot of
right.
times people saw themselves buying a watch and seeing the value go up like enormously. And it just also a lot of people, especially men, had a lot more free time, so they started educating themselves, buying themselves. Instead of like going on vacation, let me get into a watch, and then the whole
Right.
watch era opened up. And my opinion, it all started off when Rolex decided to discontinue one of the most famous watches, which was the Hulk in 2020. It's called the
Mm,
Hulk. So Rolex names watches. So the Hulk is because the outer bezel is green and inside the dial is green. So
hmm.
they call it, they have it named. So that one's called the Hulk. And people would buy them and you see people making money, and it was crazy and it just went nuts. And like the same mentality I had with like the nightlife is like, okay, well, how can I get in here? How can I do this for like, a long period of time? And like how to like, customer service, like basically being customer centric service. So thinking about the customer, getting it, the experience and everything. And yeah, it happened just like by accident.
So how do
But
you get the watches? Like if they're not available in the store, it's like, are you selling them from someone else who had bought them? Is that how it works?
so basically it's a network. So it's
Okay.
a worldwide network. So you have to understand. So basically, the DNA of watch dealers is that there's a network of trusted dealers. One of the reasons why I love the watch industry is because I call it because it's like it reminded me a lot of like nightlife back in the days when you used to go out in suits and dress up and
Hmm.
like super class. It's like the era of class and gentlemen. So with amongst the dealers, I would say from my experience so far, all the dealers, it's like you have trusted brokers, like they vouch for their watches, they have their watches, and then they have their resources that they get the watches from. So one person might know of friends like, hey, he's pulling out this watch, and they go and they buy. So let's say, for example, you pull out a watch. Let's say you go, the manager, or you have like a profile. So basically, let's say you're a very wealthy person and you keep on spending at the Rolex store, they could give you a watch that you don't want. So then they want to sell it. They don't want to
Mm,
hold it. Well, now they could sell it for more money. So they need to find a trusted dealer because A, it's a lot of money, and then someone they trust to give you the good market price value for it and get the money for it. So that's how these dealers are. So you have um, people like myself, where you say, okay, I have this watch. Will you buy? Will you buy? And we have a watchmaker. We have like a whole team, and then you just build teams. And there's other dealers like ourselves. So there's network in New York, Toronto, anywhere in the world. There it exists. You just have to find that network, which
hmm.
is practically impossible because you have to be vouched in. So like in
Right.
order to get into the network, yeah. So basically you have to have had a lot of purchase experiences to get in. Not anyone can get in.
Hmm. So when you mention your team, like who's involved, who's supporting you, what are their roles, what are they doing? Like what does the behind the scenes look like for someone who just thinks like you're there selling watches? Like obviously there are people helping you in the business aspect. So what does that look like on your end?
Well, the team starts off with um, like for me on the front end, it's more like example our team for marketing. So example like how to come
Hmm.
up with like the different types of content, what is out there, how to get people's attention. So contrary to like like my old business, which was like promotion, it's the same thing. It's similar to the same thing. Like, hey, this club is dead, is quiet, it's empty. How do we bring more people in here? Okay, bring a promoter. How do you go promote and do that? So this is similar where it's like, okay, Mo, you have um, like you were selling luxury watches. It's way more sensitive. It's way more difficult, and I think that's why I love it because it's like if you have a trusted dealer, you really trust this person with anything and everything in your life.
Hmm. And they come
And
back. Do you have like repeat clients?
yeah, a lot of repeat clients, a
Yeah.
lot of repeat clients, a lot of referrals. I've even had Team Canada when they went to Qatar. They came here,
Mm.
and a lot of the players, like, yo, go to Big Moe. Big Mo's there, and I've sold to a lot of the players, and they refer their friends. So it's all about trust, and once you have that trust, it's basically an unbreakable bond. So, and you're just going there, and it's then you add the customer service. But to get that lead, to get that client, it's much more like the marketing, coming up with different ideas, like you see out there, just there's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like here we are creating content. Like whoever thought from back in the days, hosting events would be doing this. Uh,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
know.
so it's just different ways of creating different content, different trust. It's how to reinvent myself. Like I always tell myself, my mom's like, who's Big Mo after the nightlife? Is like you have to now reinvent yourself. It's like now you have to reinvent yourself in different ways, but always have the same DNA, being the best, always staying relevant, and then
Hmm.
now how to take it another step higher. So
Yeah.
I think the most important for me was just like the marketing team, that we go and we create the content and coming up with different ideas, and then also like I have like for example, when I'm working here, I have my other partner that we're sourcing, finding the right dealers, finding the right deals. So I always try to find the best deals for our clients. If you don't have the watch ourselves, so if we don't
Yeah.
have it, then we do that. And some like in Canada, we also have a watchmaker. He's amazing. So yeah, so that's basically how like our team consists of, if you want. And yeah, it's like we have our
Y-
sales manager. He like he's the one right now delivering all the watches for me in Canada.
Nice.
We have another one in Toronto. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
I
basically
feel like
it's a trust, a circle of trust. Like the
trust
trust
it.
is
Yeah.
110% there.
Yeah, it has to be for sure. I feel like you're such a good example for people who I guess have this idea that they can only do one thing and one thing only in their lives. And I'm a very strong believer that like you have the ability to reinvent yourself and do things differently and not just have that same one career your entire life. So it's like, your family was asking you like who's Big Mo after Big Mo Productions, after being a promoter and all that, because like naturally you grow out of it, or whatever, what's the next step. And of course, like everything that you've done has kind of led you to where you are today, and everything that you've learned you've been able to apply and adapt, and somehow, I guess, create a new strategy from old ones. But ultimately you're just doing like what makes sense and what feels right for you now, today, moving forward. And you said it's like you're always like just chasing those opportunities. Like an opportunity presented itself, you're going to take it, as opposed to just being like, hey, I'm stuck in this, you know between these four walls, and this is all I have to do and can do for the rest of my life. Like it's okay to kind of like take a step, take a risk, do something different. So like what's like one thing that you would tell someone who's, let's say, wanting to make a change in their career path, and maybe is hesitating or afraid to kind of take that leap? Like what would you say to them?
I would say go with things with an open mind, and I think it's just I've always been that person that's very open minded. Like I never planned, like the things we're here laughing about it, but like like the first time we met and all those events, you think I ever dreamed about creating Big Moe and making it that big, having all those celebrities, like even Marc Cuban? No, that I'll tell you, anyone says it is crazy.
Hmm.
Like I always have that open mind. And what's funny is because like every time I'm like I'm going to open this and I'm going to open that, they all failed. Every single time I said I'm going to do something, it failed. And not once did it succeed. And then when I went in with things where I'm doing something, so like I was actually studying in real estate, and then the whole watch opportunity came. Um, like it just came, like it was actually my friend Michael Gallup's. Like he's like, Mo, like he loves watches, and like his love for watches, and even my friend Wilbur, he was always showing me into watches. I'm like, what is this watches? And it's funny because even as a kid I was very open. Like I tried a lot of sports example, and like boom, I saw Michael Jordan, and then just flipping through channels, just having
Hmm.
that open mind. You tell me, hey Mo, you're gonna be selling watches and doing this, it would be crazy. Like even like
Yeah.
what happened with COVID and everything, and then it's like a lot of people like to put, like you said, like put themselves, I'm going to do this. I also think, being an Arab in the background is like, you want your son to be a doctor, an engineer, or this. I think it's very like especially now, like I don't know where I was reading, like the number one thing people want to do is become YouTubers or something in the States, or like everything's career is changing. So you don't know. So I always kept that mindset opened, but I
Yeah.
always kept the same DNA. It was like, do the best you can, always evolve yourself, and
Hmm.
stay open and listen. Like listen to what people are saying. Like he was saying, hey,
Yeah.
it's very hard to get this. I can't get this. It hasn't, like, it's worth this much. Then when you start studying it to the point now, like my mom, my dad, they're all into watches now, and they're sending me articles, videos. I walked in the other day once, before I left, I was like, oh, you're wearing a Pepsi. Like, you end up seeing like everyone around you start educating themselves in that world. So I think it's just having an open mind. I feel a lot of people put that burden on them that I'm supposed to figure it out. It's the
Hmm.
world figures it out for you in a weird
Yeah.
way. So
Almost
like,
like trusting like that like fate will guide you, like whatever's meant to be will be, and kind of just like roll with the punches as they come, and don't be so like stuck in hoping and wishing that things will change,
yeah,
kind of just rolling with
it's
it.
like the book, The Alchemist. It's the only book my
Mm.
sister drove me nuts to read, and it's the only book I read. It
It's the
was
only
just
book
like,
you've ever read.
and it's like
I
it's
reread it
maktub. It's what's
recently.
written. Yeah, it's what's written is written. And
Hmm.
if people, it's very, very difficult. It's one thing I learned here in Dubai is how to let go, because
Yeah.
it's very, very, very difficult to let go as humans. I don't know why we just have this whole control, this notion of control and want to control things. But like when you just let go and like you said, roll with the punches and like little
Hmm.
ups and downs and ups and downs. And, like my mother says, like, you just wake up, just do the best you can for your day. Today we had this plan. I book it, I go, I'm focused. You
Yeah.
do it, you do the best you can, you fulfill the day you can, then the next day you go on. And like my friend Nadim also says, some days are heavier than others, some days are lighter than others. Like you're saying, you're rolling with the punches. You just have to deal with that, and you have your
Hmm.
surroundings that like pick you up and help you move forward. But it's like even you tell me, Mo, you plan Dubai. I tell you, no, I came here for my birthday, and
Yeah.
then these things happened. And it was crazy because I didn't even have a birthday here, and that got canceled. That's a whole nother story. But like it was just like odd. I meet this one guy, says do this, do this, do this. Then these opportunities come, and it's just like it's been so blissful around it, and you get to
Hmm.
enjoy it once you let go. I look at similar to like looking at a 5-year-old kid. Like my sister has 3 beautiful kids, and I look at them. They're like so happy and joyful, and they just wake up and let see where life takes them. They don't worry about no
Yeah.
food. They don't worry
Hmm.
about nothing. So I think that's where I get my inspiration from
That's
that. But
cool.
yeah, I would say just keep it with an open mind. And I've seen people that are like doctors or like very high profile. And they're like, I'm going to open a restaurant. Boom, super successful.
Yeah.
So it's crazy when you hear some people that like they're doing this when their whole background's completely something else. So and I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
know.
when life becomes the most fun.
I love the letting go thing too. And I feel like a lot of people can relate. The last few people that I've spoken to on my podcast, it seems to be this like kind of common theme of letting go of control. Because that's a lot of the time where anxiety I feel stems from, because if you want to have control and then you don't have control, but you realize that it's not something that you could ever gain control over, then you're killing yourself and breaking yourself over what, by letting go, you're really just kind of accepting things at for face value for what they are, not to say that you shouldn't like fight for what you believe in and this and that and whatever, but ultimately at the end of the day, like I'm fully on board that like if you kind of just like let go and trust that like everything is happening to you for you and not like to you, right? It's happening for you, for your best interest. And even though like in the moment it might not make sense or it might not be clear or it might be difficult or challenging, just trust that on the other end there will be something greater for you and something better for you. And I think like kind of letting go and trusting like whatever, if you want to say like God's plan is or rolling with the punches, whatever you want to call it, like I think that that's super super powerful, and just kind of like trusting in that like fate and intuition.
Yeah, I think it's very important. It's something I learned here. Like it's
Mhm.
very, very like in the religion, like we call it iman, which is means your faith in God. Like how strong is it? Do you
Yeah.
really believe in God, or you just say, thank you God before you get better? Thank you. Like it's like how strong do you believe? And that's what we call letting go.
Yeah.
But it's very, 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 very difficult. And it's just like a lot of times you just think you're the one doing things, and I did this, I did that. You didn't do
Mhm.
nothing. Like there's so many
Mhm.
times like I've like I'm even example working like let's say building a new website, and I have my guidelines that I follow. Like you're extremely organized person, so you have your guidelines.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like how I found this designer and this whole team was not by following my guidelines.
Mhm.
Like I had a guideline of example reviews of X amount, like going on different platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, and all these things, and I'm like, I'm not following my guidelines. What's going on here? And it's just like when we sat down, I'm like, this is what faith has. And it's crazy because this is what I'm saying is like a lot of times we think, well, you need to follow this system and follow this, you need to do this in order to have success. No, it's not like that. There's a
Mhm.
lot of luck.
Mhm.
Like all my the closest friends I have, they all live here. How like that's like they all decided to come to Dubai. Like and like you said, I lived here 5 years ago. There's so many things. Team Canada. all of a sudden they booked a 1 day exhibition game in Dubai. I didn't plan that.
Mm-hmm.
So then how do you go about and saying I did that or did anything? But what you do is like you wake up, and what I do is like example, hey, there's a message from the players, right away, see what they want, give them the best service, and that's what you got to focus on. Is like when
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity comes, boom, you deliver, you deliver, you deliver. But like the whole like like it was never in the schedule, and then I was like, hey Mo, we're coming
Yeah.
to Dubai. Can you get these watches for us? So,
Mm-hmm.
so again, this story, I've said it like, and there's so many other stories that's happened to me here. Like it's crazy, and it's like no words have for it except like this is written, this is maktub, this is God's hand. This has nothing to do with me. I'm just, if you want to say role player or whatever it is, you could say it, but it's very very difficult. Like a lot of people tell me, it's like I can't live that way because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
have that control aspect, but
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a big thing for me too. I mean, I'm currently building my company and my business in marketing, branding, social media, and all that. And like, I started off as a boutique branding agency. Before that, I had been just freelancing myself. I had gone to school, studied design, and creative direction, and had, roles as a freelancer. And then kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what, I want to build something more. I don't necessarily want all of my time to be my only source of income. And so how can I build a team to support me? And for the first like 2 years, I would say I still did pretty much everything. And only in the last year and a half have I really started to let go of that control, because it was a control thing. I had certain standards, I had certain like expectations I felt like I needed to live up to for my clients. And any work that I would outsource, let's say if I needed support from a designer, etc., I really needed you hear the language I'm using. I felt at the time that I needed them to hit the same exact same like standards and expectations as me. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have that, but at the end of the day, it's almost just going to make me crazy, because sometimes I would feel like I had to almost like redo what they did, or revise what they were doing in order to make it what I think is the best, and this and that. And I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be able to build a company. I'm never going to be able to grow a team if I don't let them make the mistakes, if I don't guide them into, let's say, adjusting their work into, hitting that certain standard or whatever. And also accepting that like no one will ever be me, no one will ever do things exactly like me, but how can I support them in order to do their best job for me and my team and my clients. And so last October, my husband Ryan and I, well, Ryan, I'm just gonna say Ryan. Ryan and I went to Bali. It was like a late honeymoon, so we went for 3 weeks, and that was my first test in my business where I completely removed myself. I had people in place that I had been working with and training for a while, and I was like, all right, I'm gone. I'm in like a 12, 11-hour different time zone. So like I will not really be accessible, but I will be, if you need me to reply, whatever, I will be available. But I wasn't managing anything. And at the time before that, I was still kind of operating as a project account manager, meeting with the clients on a weekly basis. And ultimately, that was the last bit of like day to day operations that I wanted to remove myself from. And so I had promoted my art director to become creative director, and essentially be the one to take care of that client at that time, that one specifically that I'm speaking about. And it went amazing. Like they loved working with her. Everything was great. I just fully trusted that like everything is going to work out. And if it doesn't, like we'll learn from our mistakes and we'll move on. Because how many times I've fucked up, how many times I've made mistakes, and it's like, oh man, like you just want to like hit your head against the wall. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, is it worth hitting my head against the wall? Or can I just like take a beat, like maybe go for a run around the block, get that like energy out of me, and then be like, all right, what happened? How can we like change things and then move forward and just like learn from this? And so that's been like a huge thing. But all this to say is going back to like the whole control situation, is like the second I started letting go of control and trusting other people to support me, is like the day that my eyes opened up and I was like, wow, like this is what I want. This is what I want to keep building. And so instead of like building a business and working within my business, I want to be building a company from the outside, right? So it's like the whole idea of not working in the company but working on the company. So control has been like a huge theme, and like I'm still working on it, and like we're still hiring and making changes, etc. But the freedom I feel that I've felt in being able to let go of control and really trust in other people has been super rewarding. And I'm sure you can relate as well.
Yeah, no, I relate 100%. I think the first company, Big Moe Production,
Hmm.
if you tell me, like, I went till the end, but like the thing is, I had to close it to be like, well, how do you close such a massive event company? And I'm like, well, I don't know how to pull myself out of it.
Right. And you
Like,
had people who were like relying on you and that you were paying too. Like how did that work? How did you kind of like offboard and close, and what ultimately was the reason for ending it?
the real reason was because I wasn't adding value anymore to people. So nobody knows this, but the reason I went into events was I'm an introvert. It's the only way I get to meet people, the way I talk to
Mhm.
people, and I love bringing people together. You know firsthand, and I think a lot of people listening to this was like how many times I would just do events, and I was very like bringing, like me and my sister are a lot alike. We call ourselves like the glue. It's like we not might not be the most important, but we're the one that put it together, like to make it stick. So it's like bringing different types of people. Like you said, you met your husband, at our event.
Mhm.
So it's like these are the beautiful things.
Mhm.
Like example, La Belle et Le Boeuf, like that wouldn't exist today if I didn't introduce like two amazing people together, and like they built what they've built. So it happens a lot, and was my main purpose. Unfortunately, it was in a club, and unfortunately, I'm just saying this is just me. My values is just there's alcohol being
Mhm.
sold. To me, my
Mhm.
values is just I saw that at a point now that alcohol was taking over, and like nightlife. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's not nowhere near like when we went out. We would go
Yeah.
out, we're networking, meeting people, and we're excited. And a lot of these people would connect outside of the clubs. It was just like a middle ground where you could bring so many people, and that's why I did it, and that's why I loved it. At the end, it was no longer that, and I think that was just on the rise because of my opinion of Instagram and everything else was just becoming a lot of
Mhm.
emptiness, a lot of fakeness, and it's
Yeah.
my purpose of what I was doing is no longer at true. And if I was for the money, there, I'm pretty sure there's way more money in opening up clubs and like doing all that than in the luxury watch market. It's much more difficult even and challenging, but
Mhm.
it's more value. But like the feeling I get delivering a watch now, and I see like a lot of clients they've made a lot of money from watches I've delivered. It's like that's more. It's all about what's the value add. I
Mhm.
felt at nightlife, I've helped as many people as I can. You got married. I did everything I got to do. Time to let
I
go.
owe
Time
my
to do.
marriage to you.
It was good times, man. Now Ryan's an amazing guy. I love Ryan. So those are that's why I loved it. And then the finale was Great Gatsby, where that's why I called the New Year's Great Gatsby's, where if anybody didn't see it, he dies at the end. My bad for ruining it. So like that's the quote unquote Mo dies at the end, and I'm gone. And
Mhm.
I didn't know how to pivot it. I like a big part of me inside is like, man, you built something so big, man. It was massive and so successful. And then how to redo it in your head, you can, but man, redoing it now, man, is a lot of work and energy.
Yeah.
And my mom saw the work and energy when I was younger, like I was
Mhm.
building it. She's like, dude, you're nonstop. But yeah, it was very to go back to what you're saying. It's very hard to work on it. Like even because so I agree to disagree, meaning I think you have to build your first, let's say your first 2 3 floors, your first few clients under your way of doing work, your way
Yep.
of branding, your way so
Mhm.
to prove market proof. So it's
Yeah,
like,
for
hey, is there
sure.
a market for that?
Mhm.
Then it's like, okay, now how do I delegate?
Yeah.
Then you have your SOPs, what they call a standard operation process. Like to say,
Mhm.
how do you have a Big Mac around the world? And it's always the same Big Mac, same service, same process. And it's part of that's what I'm trying to do with this business. But I still feel like I'm in the first few levels where we're not there yet where I could just get up and let go. I have
Yeah.
10 salespeople, they're all delivering watches, especially watches is very sensitive. But like
Yeah.
same thing with your business, you have to get a couple of clients that they're happy, they like your process, they like the way again, you're beyond organized how you do things. A lot of people don't know this, but my Big Mo logo. Remember when you fine
Did
tuned
I?
my logo
Oh
at
yeah. Wow. I
Tim
actually
Horton?
didn't remember that until you brought it up. And
Of
then I
course, I'm
helped
like,
you a little bit with your Venue Genie stuff too down the line. You've always
yes,
come
yes,
back home. You've always come
yes.
back.
So a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, exactly. So when that happens, so it's
Yeah.
no, because again, it's like I've always appreciated your level of organization and like how you go by things. It's similar to how I think. It's just I don't do it as well as that, but that's where it goes back to like your team. Like you have to work on strengths and weaknesses, and I think
Mhm.
like to go back what you're saying is like open opportunities. I think before you jump into other opportunities, you have to know what your strength is, what you're good at.
Yeah.
Like I might have the vision, but like, hey, this is my idea, but you're able to execute it better than I can. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm very good at, example, my team in sales and customer and marketing, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
But like example, hey Mo, go buy this watch, do this. I'm not. That's not me. You
Yeah.
go deal with the dealers. You go negotiate. That's not me. The other
Mm-hmm.
guys, they're good at, Mo, let's do this video. We'll cut it up. We'll edit it. We'll put the camera like this, camera like that. Like I've even like when the phase of Montreal, I was working with Matthew Gafrida. I'm pretty sure you know him. So he was doing
Oh, yes.
all our marketing for like, so he built the foundation basically. So he's like, okay, Mo, you're gonna do this, go do that. I hated camera. He got me comfortable on the cameras with the pictures. We'll do this, we'll do that, and like he built that whole foundation of the marketing to start. Was with him, and then it grew from there. Um, so yeah, I think it's like, but I knew that hey, if I keep on practicing this, I could get good.
Mm-hmm.
Venue Genie was a whole tech company. As much as I'm watching every podcast, reading every book, I couldn't understand tech.
Yeah.
Like it was beyond my knowledge and how to do things. I'm like, this is not for me. So I think it's also important to know like what you're good at, what you're not
Mm-hmm.
good at when it comes to opportunity. Mo's very good at sales, customer service, and marketing.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to that. So that's my play field. And that's why I said, hey, maybe real estate. But I never enjoyed real estate. I just went because I really wanted to work with my brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was that whole phase.
Yeah, I feel like a benefit that I had in building my business is that I actually like had the role of most of my team. Like I played their role. Like I was a designer, I was a creative director. I literally did the accounting, I did the project management, account management, team management. Like at one point, some way or another, I've done their job. I think now with like marketing and social coming in as well as like paid media, that's definitely not my forte and not something I really dabbled in, but I'm here to kind of learn from my team. But for the majority of like the I guess like grassroots, like what built my business, like our bread and butter, I was really involved in all of those steps in the beginning. And like you said, it is a really big like people's game too. Not a game, I don't want to say game, but it's about the
I call it a
people.
game though. I do call it a game
Sure.
because
I
it's
mean,
fun. You're supposed to have
sure.
fun. So it's like, to me, it's
Game in
supposed to.
terms of it being fun, but not like game in terms of being like trickery. Because like that's not what I was implying at all. But like
Well, no,
in
no.
this
I'm saying game is fun. Well,
yes,
what kind of
yes.
games are you
Because it
playing?
is you're supposed to have a good time, sure. Let's call it that. But like ultimately what I realized is that once I really started becoming myself and just like selling my services through me as Alyssa and not like Alyssa who I thought they wanted me to be as an entrepreneur or business owner, that's when I really saw the shift. Because when you're first starting out, you have, this whole idea of like who you think you should be and how you should act and maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not saying everybody, but that's something that I had experienced. And then once something flipped and I was like, you know what, people just want to work with me and they like me. Because once we would start working together, that's when things become a little bit more organic. So I'm like, how come I'm not like organic like this from the get-go and like super honest and humble and just like all the things that I am regularly. It's like I don't have to put on an act. Like at the end of the day, I want my clients to be happy and excited and satisfied. And if they're not, then like what benefit is that to me? Like at the end of the day, we want them to stick around, right? Like you want to have those good relationships. I'm not here to just like flip clients. Like you want to build those relationships going back to what you're doing. You're building those relationships. And I think once you realize that like it's a people's game, like everything is, it's all about people. Like that's what conscious business is. That's what conscious leadership is. It's like caring for the people, you know?
But you said something very important because like a lot of people say, "Oh, you do sales." I don't do sales. I build relationships.
Yeah.
Every person I've ever sold a watch to, like I love Mo. I love Mo. I love myself too. Thank you. But
Yeah.
like I know the reason why they say that is because I did number one. I feel their pain.
hmm
I've experienced what you've experienced.
hmm
So I know this doesn't exist. So you know yourself. But I think a lot of people like I think both like what we do and it's a good thing is that we care so much. But it's like
hmm
how do you show that on the outside when you have real salesmen that they're very good at talking and twisting words and
I
making this
honestly think
and then
people
like
see
the
past that. I think people see past that now. Like honestly, I feel like intention has so much to do with it. Like if you're going in with the intention of like being real and being heard and understood and authentic and genuine and all of those things that like you say that you are, that's how you get it across. You just be it. like literally be about it, right? So what if people can like read off of their sales sheet or sound good and this and that? Like, I think people see past that today, personally.
So yeah, so in my business, so one of the biggest hurdles was here. It's a price game. Like, what's your price? What's your price? What's your price?
Mm,
Like, I would get 300 messages. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? Like, once the marketing started kicking in, I'm like I have to now answer what's your price, what's your price, and now it became a price game. So now it's like
right.
the way I'm talking, the way I'm doing this, and I did my research, and
Mm,
I'm like, well, nobody's doing my kind of customer service and my what I'm doing, and then I just found it just let it be. It's just like I had to study this market so much, so deep. It was crazy, and I think that's when it becomes like, okay, well, how do you? I think that's what it's actually what you do. That's when you build a brand. It's
hmm.
like, well, getting that one client, giving an amazing experience, getting the second one, getting the third one, and understanding the market, getting feedback, and then going. But I think the I think the caring, it's like I think we both deliver is like 9.5, 9.9 is like how much is the client really expecting. We'll always
Right.
do that, and I think that's like especially me being in the luxury world. I love doing what I do. Like I love it. I spend so much time with the client when I come to deliver. It's crazy. Um, and I want them to understand that I'm not here to just flip a watch. Like I'm here to give you an experience, to educate you.
Hmm.
I'm into watches, you're into watches, and going that. And same thing with your design, like especially what you're doing. You're going and generating people brands, things that they remember, their marketing, generate the money. People get to know them, so it's like something that you care about and you love. And again, I've worked with you in the past, just especially in your world, it's more about delivery. Because I've worked
Hmm.
with a lot of people in the creative world where it's like, yeah, you'll have it by Friday. Ah, but this came up, this came up, this came up. They asked Chat GPT, come up with
Oh God.
excuses.
Come up with
Uh,
excuses.
use this excuse. It always sells. And then it's like, oh, no problem. Can I have it for Friday, for Monday? Just end the day. And it's just, I remember when I was doing like the whole nightlife thing, that was the thing that was driving me nuts the most was
Yeah,
the
it's annoying.
creating and it was just very hard to just find that. So I think once people, I think they appreciate your value and everything you get to build it, and you go and you just have to get, like you said, you work on your business. You're
Hmm.
ahead of me. I'm not there yet. I'm still in the building phase. It's funny because I think about it because I'm going to be there soon, sooner than later. I should be implementing it now, but it's how to do it. So
It
I'm
takes
looking forward
time.
to that,
It
but I
does.
just don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah, honestly, it takes time and like it literally takes courage because like the fear that I had removing myself, it's like the fear of it failing without me was huge. And like I'm working on the business, but I'm still doing sales in my business. Like I'm not completely removed in terms of like communicating with clients day to day, running the projects. Like I have a project manager, I have a creative director, I have a marketing manager, I have the social media people, like all of them, they're there, they're great, they're doing their job. But like for example, two people are leaving and I have to replace them. Who's going to replace them? I don't have a HR person, so like I'm the one finding them, doing the interviews, putting the job posting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And do I love it? No, but that's hopefully something one day I can also outsource. But like, there's always going to be something like I'm not completely 100% removed. That's the goal. But that's in the last year and a half what I've been like leaning towards, especially, being a woman, wanting to eventually start a family one day. Like all of those things are important for me to be able to feel secure in my company, being able to provide for me and my family while not actually being present. And that's been like the biggest thing for me for the last few years. And I feel like I'm finally getting to a place where like I really trust that it could be fine without me, and also trusting that like it doesn't have to be exactly the same when I'm gone. Like if we're not getting as many clients, let's say if like I have a baby or whatever at home, like that's also okay, and kind of removing that pressure off of myself because I mean, how much pressure we put on ourselves every day, like it's not fair. Like we got to be more gentle with ourselves sometimes, I think. I've worked hard my whole life, so it's like for God's sakes, if I can't chill after having a baby, like when will I ever?
Yeah, no, the whole chilling part is like it's not that I think about it. Like I did it like with our offices in Montreal and Toronto that we have let go, and I've done that. So like with all our
Hmm.
deliveries there, I think
Yeah.
that was the first test,
Yeah.
and I think we're just just keeping. I'm very good at communication. Like I go, I write, I go. Like I'm always on the phone. Um, in terms for the clients to make them, especially when it comes to like the watches, like they want the customer service is number one, and how you
Hmm.
communicate and educate them. But yeah, like here, like I think it's like when you go to the next level, I think like one thing that like my sister always tells me to do is like like and I think you should do, because hearing you is like reflect that like in the past year what you've done,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because like I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, because
Yeah.
I don't know why you're expecting, like I have a friend here who's building a startup, so I help him, we help each other, we have a
Mm-hmm.
nice community of entrepreneurs here always helping each other. And he's like, yeah, Mo, I'm doing this. I'm like, dude, you did this. You're on year 15. You're on year 1 with this new project and you're expecting results from year 15. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also part of the process is like, I don't know, like, that's the thing is that like now you're learning everything new and now you have to practice different things. Like it's all about practice.
Mm-hmm.
Like Alan always says, practice. We're talking about practice. Yeah, we're talking about practice. Like
Practice makes
even me, it's like
perfect.
practice to delegate,
Yeah.
practice not to be perfect, practice to trust the person.
Oh,
But
I
you
love
just gotta
that.
you gotta practice it. A
Yeah.
lot of times we feel that like, because when you're younger, it's easy to practice because we're all at the same level practicing.
Mm-hmm.
But then now we're like older, they're like, well, this person's established, they did this, or this person was given this, or this person has this, or this person,
Right.
boom, went viral and now they're doing this. Well, these things, it's like that's what we call luck. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
things that happen. But you have to always teach yourself like how to practice new things. Like
Mm-hmm.
example, like me, my routine, waking up, organizing my agenda. Like I would never do this. So doing this and being more organized, fixing my communications, like when something bad happens, how to adjust it and improving it constantly. But this being improving it is by practicing and doing something that's uncomfortable and
Mm-hmm.
practicing it until it becomes comfortable. And I tell you, I don't think someone hates more of the whole HR thing that you do as much as me. When the team's like, Mo, we need a new website. I had a very, very big client come sit down with me and talk to me. He's like, everything you're doing is amazing, but your website, I'm sorry. And
Mm-hmm.
he just said it black, and he's in sales and marketing. And I'm like, wow, coming from you, I'm like, it means a lot. So my guys, we have to do it. He's like, well, Mo, it's you. You have to go. And I'm like, guys, come on. I tried to cut corners. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to go, and you just have to go and do it. And it's also, I don't know if you watched the documentary from Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, and like he talks about it, it's like anything I ask someone to do, I've done it myself. So
Mm-hmm.
being that I really have that Michael Jordan mentality in it, I don't mind it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's also know to what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like it's good to say, hey, like we gotta like slow down a bit, like hopefully you get some twins and stuff like that in
Me?
upcoming, and you have a,
Oh
yeah, you
God,
get,
no.
oh God, no, it's that one, it's like I got two.
I mean,
uh,
God willing, like if that happens, we'll deal with it. But like, I'm not praying for it.
God willing, you get twins. You never know. My brother and sister are twins.
Yeah.
My mom
Oh,
didn't
you
plan it.
never know. You never know. Honestly, what I did say is it's like a one and done situation at least.
Yeah, no,
But hey,
not
you never know. You never know what the future holds. So I
the
won't
twins
say that. But
were 3 and 4. It wasn't even no,
oh.
1 and 2. It was 3 and 4. So that's what I'm saying is that you just have to find that balance, like how to have the balance. And like my father always tells me, he's like, life is not success is not about just money and power. It's like, look at the numbers. It's not that. It's the balance, like your
Yes.
health. Like I even remember, like like even back then, it's like, Mo, let's go to gym. Got to go to gym. Let's go to gym. And I'm like, man, I don't like the gym. I hate the gym.
Hmm.
Like go to the gym, like push yourself. And then when you work on your health, you work on your relationship with your family, you work on your relationship with your friends, and you do your work and do what you have to do, like you're saying, and with your
Yeah.
team, because you're creating these people opportunities. They're learning, they're feeding. You're gonna see a couple of years from now. I was like, wow, look what I've built. It's crazy.
Hmm.
I remember what like my first 5 years of nightlife. I was like, wow, this is nuts. And I was still going to school and having fun. This was not supposed to be a career. Thank God
Yeah.
I didn't make it a career. It was just for fun, but it was very long period of time for fun.
A
A
lot of
lot
fun.
of fun for many years. So it was
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just basically, I guess, how to keep your head above the water. And it's like my mom just said, it's simple, man. Just take it one day at a time, because if you overwhelm yourself with so many things, you just drown. And just
Hmm.
prioritizing, obviously, which I know
Hmm.
you do a very good job of that.
Yeah, on it. Well, thank you. I resonate with like so much of the things that you've said, and I just like I love hearing this from you. It's been so long since we've really kind of like connected and had this one on one, so it feels good, and I'm happy for you, and I'm excited for you, and like I can't wait to like keep watching what you're doing or whatever.
Thank
I don't know.
you.
It's like always something fun. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and like talk some money. Yeah.
Sure, let's talk money.
So your business currently has generated over $1 million in revenue in the last year, from what you've told me, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that because to some people that's super impressive. So is it like a result of the fact that the products that are being sold are at like such a high, like are priced so high, or like what's the deal? What is the magic sauce? Like how are you doing it? You're killing it. People want to know.
So the magic sauce is number one, like knowing your client. And before,
Mhm.
like, again, if you want to relate nightlife to watches, like I first tried to go into, a supper club or whatever, and I got rejected, and I saw that feeling. So, like, how do you do the same thing with watches? So I went and purchased a watch. The experience buying my personal watch was fine, but like going from other dealers was, I saw what was missing. Is like, where's the customer service? Where's the education? And I like, it's in a way, it's like I'm putting myself, like I call like a perspective lens. So it's like, okay, Mo, I'm a
Mhm.
client. Okay, now you're a dealer, and then it's like I think the only thing I learned in school is like you'll be a successful business person, entrepreneur, whatever you want to label it. These days, there's 1,001 names. If you really understand the role of every person on the team and as the client. So what's the client going through? What are they feeling and
Mhm.
everything? And
Mhm.
purchasing my own watch and going around and asking different people and getting referrals and everything, I saw that. So did you have these numbers in mind? No, I didn't. But what I did
Yeah.
do is that have the customer service in mind and have the belief like, hey, I'm going to, I want to be the best, luxury watch dealer in the world. How do you do
Mhm.
that? Let me start being the best in my city, which is Montreal. Okay, just build this up. The people then now enters the world of blocking noise. So in order to do with those numbers, you got to block the noise, which is blocking people's opinion. Where people's like, oh, this guy's selling fake watches. What's this guy doing selling watches? Like
Oh.
the chitter
Did you get a
chatter at
lot
the
of
beginning.
that? You
Oh
got a lot of
yeah, it
that?
never ended. It did
Really?
not end.
Still?
Oh
Still,
no,
you feel?
now everybody ghosts me. They're like, oh,
Okay, now they're like, yeah, he's legit.
now they ghost me, or like now it's like no, it's like they can't. I don't know. It's they got quiet real quick, but
Mhm.
um, but it's not about that. It's about like also don't make it a thing. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't make
Right.
it a
Don't let it
thing. Like
bother you. Yeah. Yeah.
no, because this is what I love. This is what I learn, and
Mhm.
um, like you have to just like even like when I was doing like the whole nightlife thing was just working on my craft, making it better, making it better, making it better. And then sometimes you're so good that you actually built the market, you expanded the market. So if you
Mhm.
go look at basketball and Michael Jordan, what he's done to basketball, like he is basketball. Like at one point, Big Moe was nightlife. Like you want, which club do you want to go to? Boom, I'll get you in.
Yeah.
Even booking from Vegas to Miami, and that was the route I was going to. It didn't work out. Um, Obviously, my there's a conflict of values in there for me, but like when it goes to watches now, it's the same thing. So it's like, okay, how do I give this service to the client? How to make them feel comfortable? How to be transparent with it? How to like go above and beyond for customer service, saying like, hey, I appreciate you, thank you for giving me this business.
Mhm.
So if you ask me, did it happen by accident? I tell you no. And I also think you have to go out in with an open mind that you can do something. And I was like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like you
Mhm.
you you hype up your own self.
Yeah.
For
I think
example, if
it's
you're,
super Go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's super common that, when you express a dream that seems very big to other people or unrealistic to some people, that's just because they can't like dream it or think of it as being possible for themselves. But like, we're no different than anyone else who's also made it, right? And who's also, whether it's built a company or a team or generated millions of dollars in revenue, things like that. I don't know, become famous, lands a role in a movie. Like everyone at one point was just like you, like average Joe Schmo. If that's how you relate or think of yourself, like that's what you will be. But if you believe, like you said, belief is a big thing. If you believe you can get there, you will. And you could. It's just a matter of like doing the work every single day to get there, But if you don't, then you don't. You're capping yourself out. If you don't have that belief, then it's like, what are you reaching for? Right?
But it depends why you're doing it. Like, we're talking about money. I'm not doing anything for money. I never did nightlife for
Right.
money.
Right.
So like even the money I made in nightlife, I didn't never did it for money. I did it for
But you
bringing
chase
people
it.
together.
That's it. And like a big thing that I noticed too when you were talking earlier, I was just reminded of is that like the reason you pivoted was because it no longer aligned with your values, which is huge. So like you were working in an industry and growing and making money and whatever, but ultimately your values didn't align with the industry that you were working in, and it no longer felt right to stick in that. So regardless of whatever success, and I say in quotes because maybe it was monetary success, whatever it may be, success can be defined in a lot of different ways, like you mentioned earlier. You changed because it didn't feel right anymore, and you aligned yourself in a new line of work and business and created something that felt better. And it's like, I agree too. It's like, if you feel good in what you're doing, if you're aligned in your values, and like this is what the definition of conscious leadership and conscious business is. It's like when you put people first, you have the we mentality and not the me mentality. You're not chasing the money, you're focusing on community. Like these are all of the things that you're doing, literally, you know? So like,
But a lot of people think it's talk. When you implement it, they're like, okay, like a lot of people's like, yo, you're leaving all this money on the table. I'm like, yeah. They're like, I'm like, money doesn't bring happiness.
mhm,
Money can facilitate some things, but like you could buy like, you know, one of my friend's favorite this quote is like, it's like I'd rather cry in a Rolls Royce than on a bicycle. But I've actually seen. I think it's funny, but it's like, and truly, it's like, what is happiness? And I've been around. I'm
yeah,
very blessed with my network worldwide. I've met all kinds of people, super rich, super
mhm,
wealthy. And I think it's just having that balance. But a lot of people, especially in today's world, how everything's being marketed is just money, money, money. Even entrepreneurship, I make this much money, 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 money. I'm making this, I'm making that. Versus example, like, are you happy? How's your health? How are you, you know, like example, like for me, my, like I wrote my goal. Usually I'm like, okay, I want to do this. I deleted everything. I wrote my goal is
mhm,
knowledge. So I'm now measuring knowledge. So example, what we were talking about before is like, well, how can I scale my business? How can I do this here? So I'm looking at, not as, oh guys, we need to hit this number. For
mhm,
me, this is part of
mhm,
like the, what's written is written, maktub. Me, it's like the opportunities. I do the marketing. As long as everything you see is aligned and you're following things, then it's like, okay, we go into that. The next step is like, how do I gain more knowledge? How do I,
mhm,
there's a saying, you don't know what you don't know. Well, how do I know what I don't know? So
yeah,
surrounding yourself by right people, learning from other knowledge. Like I learned the most from people. Like all my knowledge, all my success came from people. So it's like, and it's like always like asking those right questions to get that. But yeah, like a lot of people's like, you need to like, even with Venue Genie, it was just like, you know, you need to build a business plan and like account it, like calculate all the costs. I've even flipped a house, like in the, like, you know, trying to figure out what my second,
yeah,
um, if you want to say hat or second, my second rodeo or the
yeah,
second show,
yeah,
what would be.
mhm, mhm,
I thought like, okay, let me flip a house. When I went to flipping a house and accommodating costs and everything, I'm like, this was a nightmare. And it's like a lot
mhm,
of people think it's like, well, look what you've done. Yeah, it was a crazy house and what I've built, but it's, people look at that. People look at the upside of things. They don't look in the back end. Like, okay, well, the time, what you've done, what you've sacrificed. So it's like, to me, like that project was just knowledge. I've gained knowledge. Hey, I now know I'm good in sales and marketing. Not like I did a phenomenal job with it, but it took everything out of me. So I'm like, let me
yeah,
go back to what I'm good at. So it's like, I think it's like, for me now, my new metric is knowledge, and it's not money. But I never, I think it's just always giving. So to go back to the question, actually, the simple answer is, I did what we call, is there a market for this,
mhm,
for luxury watches? And I went in with an open mind, and I gave it time to breathe, and I tried. Then I'm like, there's a huge market for this. Instead of saying, hey, there is no market for this, who the hell's going to go spend 20K on a watch?
right. Because then you would never be successful, because then what are you attracting? Nothing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But then it's like, well, what if a watch is 30K, 40K,
Yeah.
500,000? What
Mhm,
about a million?
mhm,
So if you start selling these watches, so I can make your million in one watch.
yeah,
So it's like people now don't know this. So then it's like, when you go into that mentality, well, I can, and think about those happy thoughts. Think about, like, I dream, like my dreams are big. Like I'm going to sell to big athletes, big, like all these things that you want to have. You gotta believe in it, and there's the
mhm,
power of believing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's just how I go by things. The first, but I do must admit, the first thing, like the nightlife. I remember that night actually at Coco when I walked in, and it was like beyond packed. Like I've never seen so many people in my life. I'm like, what the, what did we just create? Like, because like this was like nothing. And then I think like that summer, Marc Cuban, and like, man, that summer was one of the craziest summers. I think Montreal's ever seen. And it was just like even
Hmm.
Flow Rider. There was so many celebrities that summer that came. George St. Pierre.
Yeah.
So
So like
like
I'm
it goes
curious to
back to
know.
that.
Yeah, for sure. But like going back to even then, you're saying that your, I guess, your mindset has changed or what you're striving for. It's not necessarily a monetary goal. Like, was it always like that? Like when you started your first business, did you have any kind of monetary goal? Were you always just kind of going in with like an open mind? Like, was there a pivotal moment in your journey where something shifted for you?
Yeah, I love cars. So when I got the 7 Series, so I said I wanted to get I had in my head a 7 Series, which was M, and the first one that they came out was the 750 M, and that was I think 2010, 11 or 12, I forget. And I'm like, I want this car, I want this car, and I was just running after this like crazy. And the car did not exist until they came out with it, actually, coincidentally. And what even made it better, we ended up doing their Grand Prix event for BMW, which ended up
Look
doing
at
for
that.
BMW Mini and stuff. And then I got the car, I parked it on the driveway. I went to my mom. She's like, "So you got it? Are you happy now?" I'm like, "It means nothing to me." And like, it's funny,
Wow.
that car, I gave it to all my friends. Everyone drove it, and that's when
I
I
remember that
realized,
car.
yeah, that car was the most memories, the most fun.
Yeah.
Man, that car was beyond epic. But it was like, that was back in the days. Like nobody had a 750, so in order to go
Hmm.
get that car, I had the most fun. Don't get me wrong, which was crazy, like driving it alone, no, but with the people in it and like the friends and like everyone, it was so much fun with that car. But
I mean, there must have
yeah,
also
like
been
once
like a
the
sense of pride that came through with that too, right? And having been able to afford that, like, yeah, maybe the actual thing didn't bring you as much joy as you thought, but at least the pride for having gotten yourself to that point. But then that's when I guess something maybe shifted for you where you were like, like, did this really make me that much happier? Right?
well, number one, I think the goal was too small. That's number one. Number two is just like, okay, well, how do you, like, I think, how do you not let money control you and have like, it didn't control me, but it also brought me a lot of attention, sometimes
Hmm.
good, sometimes bad. But especially in Montreal, it wasn't the like, people were like, everyone knew my car driving around. It was crazy. But
Yeah.
no, I think it was just because I think it was just a small mind. If you ask me, I think Mo had a small mind back then, because
Yeah.
it's like, how do you generate wealth? How do you generate, okay, we'll have 27 series, and how a car that means nothing. The good thing is that like everyone's like, hey, they see 7, it's like, oh, that's Big Mo's car, that's Big Mo, which is funny, because then the whole marketing behind 7 series is just like, oh, that's like Big Mo's car, which was funny. But like yeah, I think it was just more like, example, it goes back to the knowledge of like, well, how can I now constantly drive a 7 Series for 50 years? How do I constantly, go, example, different ways of wealth, if it's from like real estate, different businesses, how to get involved in different businesses. I've got myself involved in a lot of businesses, like how to maintain that wealth and then grow it. And then how to
Hmm.
do something that you love. Because I loved what I was doing, but it's like, I also saw, I'm like, I always saw a dead end to nightlife. Where here, it's just like, I don't see it. I just see like it's something that's like time, like with time. I'm chasing time. It's weird, and it's something that like you slowly like just fall in love with, and it's more like with the reaction with the clients when they see it and they get it. Because I know that feeling that I had first.
Yeah.
So like that's why I don't know what I would be chasing. I think it's chasing knowledge, like how to build something, like how to get into something that's, there's big boy players in this industry, like big, and like I'm just being thrown in the ocean, and it's like, can you change this game? How can you be remembered in a positive way? Like my ultimate goal is how people, like in the secondary market, especially with luxury watches, everyone thinks like, oh, you're a dealer, oh, you're shady, and there's no trust. Well, how to bring
Hmm.
trust into that? So now it's like,
Interesting.
so now when people say, you have a Rolex, did you buy it from Big Mo? Oh yeah, okay, you're good. So now it's switching slowly. So that's where it's like that whole trust factor is, and like that, the level of gentleman and that class and service that still exists. It's not
Yeah.
like, that's another topic completely, but like I
Yeah.
find the
Yeah.
quality of people and everything is just diluting. But like finding those like-minded people, and like having that, there's like, wow, these services out there still exist, and it's still white glove to the highest
Hmm.
level. And um, yeah, that's now my goal. The money, I think it's like they say in Arabic, shaban means your eyes are full. Like
Hmm.
ainak shaban means, instead of your belly, means your eyes are full. That's the Arabic saying. So that means like you've seen everything, you've done everything. Now it's just more knowledge, building, growing. helping other people, doing things. It's more value, adding value to the world, and
Right.
what from what you know, and doing other things, which is, I guess, I've matured and grown up.
Yeah. I think we've all grown up a little bit. I love that. Cool. So we're gonna wrap it up. And before we leave, I end my podcast with a segment called Mindful Minute. So it's really just if you had one piece of advice to leave my listeners, what would it be?
If you have any ideas or anything you want to do, just do it. Like, stop thinking, stop overthinking. Like, if it's a piece of content, hey, I want to do this, whatever it is, like as much as you can, keep your mind as open and flexible. It's what helped me, guide me. Like, always, like I'm 41 now. A lot of people's like, well, how are you 41? You look 28. You act a younger age. It's because you're keeping yourself flexible, understanding what's
Hmm.
out there, and like trying different things, good things. We're saying when you're trying out, and it's just try it. Like, don't be shy. Like, be uncomfortable. Like, be
Yeah.
comfortable being uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
coming here to Dubai, I was uncomfortable. Doing
Hmm.
these videos, doing all these things, I'm uncomfortable. Doing podcasts, I was uncomfortable. Then it becomes comfortable, and like we were saying, practice, practice, practice. Boom. So just jump. Stop thinking. Don't. And I'm saying jump in terms of, no. It's not jumping like, okay, I'm going to take $1 million and just put it in this company. No, I didn't say that. Like,
You're going to be
think about it.
liable for a lot of things.
I'm not liable. I do not give advice for career advice. They're not like doing these HR things, so HR jobs. So yeah, so that's what my advice would be, and do what you love. Like, don't run after that whole money and power thing. Um,
Hmm.
I think it is good that you make good money, so you could provide. But
Hmm.
I find like just obsession with it, like how it's become, it's crazy. But what's crazy, we have more and more wealth in the world than we ever have. So
Yeah.
um, that's would be my couple of few tips at the
Love
end.
it. Love it. Take the risk, take the step, guys. Thank you so much, Mo. Where can people find you online?
Instagram at Big Moe Inc. BigMoeinc. So Big Moe Inc. And yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Awesome. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.
Yeah, bye.